A very good morning to everyone present here. I am Sangeeta Bhattacharjee. I am a TESOL certified English trainer and a personality development coach as well. At the very outset, I'd like to thank the School Reformer team for inviting me on this platform. And I'm going to speak on the topic pen power possibility today, wherein we talk of writing as a life skill for young children. Uh, why this is so relevant, especially in today's context, right? We are talking of a time where we are celebrating speed and at the cost of stillness. We are teaching our children to compete, but not exactly to contribute. And somehow I feel that writing has that nurturing ability to let our children be in tune with their inner compass. So that is the reason why we are going to talk about writing today. And as I start my presentation, I'd like to talk about what all we are going to cover. So at the very outset, I'm going to talk about why writing matters, of course, and then a little bit about what NEP 2020 tells us about this. Then we are going to talk about a few theories because we know that theories are, after all, the backbone of any form of practice, and a few of the global pedagogies as well. And then how we can implement it, a blueprint sort of to implement in our classroom conditions. So here we go. Before we start this, I want every educator, every teacher, whoever is listening to this presentation to kindly think or consider one thing, that we are not merely teachers and educators, right? It is not just food for the mind that we are talking of. It is also food for the heart, for the soul. And with that mindset, we need to consider writing as a quiet, no doubt, but a very powerful way of getting in touch with our inner compass, as we call it. So, with that mindset, let us talk about why writing matters in today's world. I think as I said, we are celebrating speed. We are talking of a world where there is an absolute lack of empathy. By the day, you can see it in the world around you, the levels of tolerance and everything going down. And in such a speed obsessed world, I think the concept of stillness and maturity is brought to us by writing. And that is the reason why we need to celebrate writing. We can think of writing as a mirror on one hand and a megaphone on the other. A mirror because it is a reflection of what the child has in his or her heart, that is, in his or her innermost feelings, and it amplifies those thoughts. Of course, we have to give them a very safe classroom environment, as I call it, so that they're able to express their innermost thoughts. And often we have thought of writing as something which is to be graded, wherein we talk of grammar, not so much of grace. We talk of paragraphs and presentation, but not so much about perspective, maybe. So we need to think of writing from a different perspective, so to say. We can think in terms of these values that we can see here. Say, for instance, we talk of resilience, respect, we talk of kindness, courage, gratitude. I think these are not things that our children are made to think about in today's world. As I said, too speed obsessed. But if we can make them sit and think, they can connect with it. They can, I think, search in the deepest core of their heart and they can relate with it. And of course, it will lead to better people. And again, it's a future skill. Why I say this? Because yes, we know that artificial intelligence is just taking over our world. And I think it is all the more important for us to be in touch with that real human within. That connection with self is so important, right? Our children should not forget how to express their innermost feelings, that emotional awareness that we talk of, right? So these are the reasons why it matters. And again, we have some statistics as well. This, of course, is an annual survey, the National Literacy Trust's annual survey in UK, which was conducted. And you can see how writing, and when I say writing here, this research was based on writing, which was something like monthly. It was not even a daily ritual there. And children from age 8 to 18 years were surveyed, and we saw that when they were made to write, these are things that improved. And look at the percentage. We're talking of creativity improving by 60% almost. Self-expression, emotional expression, well-being, happiness. How often do we talk about it? And just one simple thing, which is writing. Now, if you ask me, how exactly do we do this, right? So, empathy. We all know that empathy is just getting eroded in today's world, and we need to bring it back. We need to bring it back. It's the dire need, I think, of the hour. So what we give them a prompt, right? If from the practical aspect, if you think about it, we ask them to write a diary, and as if they're a child in some war zone or in some refugee camp, and they come up with what they feel. So in the process, what do? They have to step into the shoes of that person, of the child who is there in that refugee camp, who is there in that war zone. And what do you think it builds? It is somebody else's story, but they are feeling about it. So it builds empathy in them, right? They can think, they start seeing from their hearts. What about self-awareness? We give them something like, can you just talk about what you feel today? What did you do this week which made you perhaps feel very angry or feel very satisfied? And then they go into the deepest core of their heart. And they get also a means to express themselves. They know that when their feelings, they're overwhelmed by feelings, they don't need to explode, they can just explore. And their messy minds will find meaning in the process. Ethical thinking. See, everything in this world is not about black and white. There are certain gray areas as well. And our children are often not equipped to face those. So I think when the decisions are written down, as in when we ask them, if your friend cheats at an exam, then what do? You report to the teacher, you just stop your friendship, or you perhaps talk to the child, talk to your friend as to how to go about it. So, they also discover these gray areas and, yes, thinking. They develop thinking, critical thinking in the process. Narrative identity. How can we develop that? Say we ask them, write a letter to your future self. I think it is so often done in the schools and classes. So what does it do? It helps them sit down and talk to themselves and chart out a roadmap in the process, perhaps, and they become the narrators of their own journey, right? And it is very true that we teach about careers to our children. But don't you think it is so very important to teach them about character as well? I think this is what writing does, right? It helps them to weave that narrative identity. Let us talk about NEP 2020 very fast and what exactly NEP 2020 tells us. Like they want us to shift from literacy to expression. And we need to consider it very seriously in the sense that, you see, NEP 2020 tells us that writing needs to be a foundational skill, a core skill, not a fringe skill, because we have to give it top priority. And they have even told us that by grade 3, we have to be reading, writing, basic math at top priority. So all future learning depends on it, so to say. Then apart from that, experiential learning, no rote memorization. It has to be activity based. The experience needs to be expressed. And especially for ages 3 to 11, NEP 2020 says that activity-based learning or experiential language learning is very, very important. We also talk of descriptive assessment, competency-based assessment. I think all educators and teachers are aware of how our questions have changed, especially if you're dealing with class 10 and class 12 board exams. You will see how we have made it more reasoning-based, more critical thinking, more creative. And that is such a joy to watch it. But at the same time, we also need to equip our students to be able to write those answers because they're so used to a particular pattern, right? So this is something that really, really needs to be. And the assessment is changing from, as I said, these are not just factual or recall activities, but more reasoning-based, more critical thinking-based. Apart from that, also NEP 2020 talks of integrating the 21st century skills through learning. And when we say 21st century skills, what do we exactly mean? We are talking of these 4 C's again. We are talking of critical thinking, we are talking of creativity, communication, collaboration, and as we will see later, everything can be brought about, can be integrated. It is not a digression at all. It can be brought about with the help of writing. And of course, the entire process, as you can see, the teachers need to be trained. We have to have that mindset shift as well, to have a very positive outlook towards it all, not to consider it as a burden. I know we are already overwhelmed with our syllabus and assessments and everything, but then the pedagogical focus also needs to change in some form of shift in mindset. I think is more important than anything else, because you can very well see as we move on in this presentation, it need not be very overwhelming. So how it need not be very overwhelming, instead of asking them write 10 lines on a tree, we now just say, if you were a tree in a city park, what would your day look like? So what is it doing? Basically, it is encouraging some form of imagination in the child. He or she discovers a voice talking like a tree. And of course, it will encourage empathy as well in the process. And everything in line with NEP goals. That is exactly what NEP is telling us to do with the children. Let us talk of a few theories. As I always say, theories are the backbone to any kind of practice. And we will also talk about a few practices which are like followed globally. The first one that we're talking of is Lev Vygotsky's social constructivism and scaffolding. What exactly is social constructivism? See, we know that children learn best by means of social interaction, whether it is with teachers, parents, peers, and also collaboration really helps them flower their skills. So we are thinking in terms of pair writing, maybe some form of peer review, maybe they feel heard in the process, and some group writing, some co-creations. So there is this, Vygotsky also talks about the zone of proximal development, wherein some form of scaffolding helps our children, if we can give them some form of a support, especially for struggling learners. So we start with maybe a word bank, a mind map, a kind of sentence frames, maybe some prompts, maybe whatever helps. So that scaffolding helps in the process because they learn more in a group and with help, as we said. Donald Graves also talked about a writing process approach. Any form of structure, any form of writing, sorry, it is not a one-time activity. It is a journey. It is a process. And Graves did tell us that even the best of writers did not arrive at their end piece in one go. They had to really go through a lot of revisions, and every revision is like a proof of the effort and the growth that they have made in the process. We need to make our children understand this as well, because children are almost always in a hurry to just finish up the writing and show, okay, we have done this. But we need to understand it's a process. So we can have these steps wherein we talk of pre-writing, where they are brainstorming their ideas, then of course drafting it, revising it, editing it, and sharing it. Because sharing ultimately is the end result. I think the appreciation, the feedback, and everything helps. So we can talk in terms of writing folders, wherein they put in those folders their brainstorming notes, the feedback from both the teacher as well as the friends, maybe the peers also give the feedback, and they put it there in that folder. Then the first revised the draft that they have prepared, the final one that they have prepared, and everything is like a reminder of the journey that they have sort of gone through in the process. And it makes them appreciate it better. They understand that, as I said, it's a process. And this we are doing for grades of 5 to 8. That will help them because they are more, they're ready to take ownership of their writing. So they are more equipped for that. Howard Gardner talks of multiple intelligences. We very well know that not every child is going to be a perfect writer, a wordsmith, so to say. But we can have this multisensory prompts. In multisensory prompts, what we are doing is that if they're not okay with just a written prompt, maybe we can appeal to, we can make a visual appeal. So we have the visual learners, wherein we ask them to draw and write. We have the kinesthetic learners, where maybe they can go for a role play and then write about it. We also have the musical learners. You ask them to write a song or a poem, and they're so comfortable with it. And then the interpersonal learners as well, wherein perhaps interview will help them better write or structure their thoughts with pen on paper. So the multi-sensory prompts also help a lot when it comes to multiple intelligences by Howard Gardner. What is already being done, that is the ideas that are going around the world. I'll just talk about two. So in UK, they have this concept of writing for well-being. And herein, I feel that this is something that we really, really need to emulate. Because, see, as I already said, that empathy, tolerance, these are certain things which are fast eroding, and we need to get it back. I mean, especially now when technology is almost like invading our worlds, we need to hold on to that inner voice, right? We need to hold on to that power that we have to make decisions. So emotional expression is a must. And often we find that our children are actually emotionally not equipped to handle their feelings. It is a jet age after all. I mean, the parents are busy, the teachers are more concerned about maybe, not exactly what is going on in their heart and soul, but more in their mind. So that emotional expression can be brought about through journaling, maybe through letters to selves and through poetry and stuff. And they do it in the schools in UK so that some kind of emotional regulation can be maintained. And Harvard's Project Zero's thinking routines. Now, thinking routines are more like structures. And we all know about Project Zero of Harvard, started sometime back in 1967 or so, I think. And with the idea that how R can actually be used to sort of connect it with learning and creativity and stuff. And when they started with zero understanding. That's the reason why we're calling it Project Zero. They called it Project Zero. So they give structures, and structure always makes writing deeper. Thinking is deeper when you give structures to children. So it's like, see, think, and wonder. You see something, you experience something, and then you think about it, you reflect on it, right? And you put it in words. And then comes the wonder, as in your curiosity is evoked, and you go in deeper into what you have seen and thought about and written, and you perhaps draw your own conclusion. So you give them a kind of a structure or a thinking routine, and then children go ahead with it. So the Project Zero of Harvard is also something that can really work wonders with our children. We will talk about two more practices from Finland because, again, as I said, the mindset shift. We are talking of grading, but we are not talking of grace here. So we have to go beyond correction. And we have to understand this, which I said at the very beginning, the power of writing. We talked about how it can be a thinking tool, it can be an amplifier of their innermost feelings, and it is basically a life skill, no doubt about it, but I would call it more of a survival skill, I think, in today's world. And why Finland? Because Finland, of course, has one of the best education systems of the world. And what they are doing, two approaches specifically we are going to talk of, wherein they are really connecting writing with very deep-rooted experiences. So, of course, we might have to customize it in our setting, but I think it is a wonderful method that, and at least we need to talk and discuss this. So we have the ELPS model. What exactly is this ELPS model that is being followed in Finland? So the E stands for experience, wherein the children are made to sort of, suppose it is a market that they need to talk about, as you can see the example here. So they visit the market, they smell the spices and the vegetables and the fruits and whatever is there. They see the bargaining being done, they see the colors and everything. So they just soak in, they absorb. So the E is for the experience. Then comes the L or the language. And they're not really write, they talk about it. They sort of describe it in their own words. And here we are talking of early childhood. When we say early childhood, it is more or less like grade 6, grade 5 or so. So in early childhood, grade 3 to be more precise. So the language is something that they are talking about. They are discussing it in their own language. And what is happening in the process is that they're building up that vocabulary to express it later, when we come to the symbol part. After the language comes the picture. They draw. These are small children, they would love the process. And it is in keeping with the thought that we need something concrete before we come to the abstract. So the concrete comes with the experience, and the picture is very much related with it because it is fresh in the mind, and they can draw the, as we said, the basket of fruit or a stall or even the shopkeeper's smile, whatever attracts their attention there, right? And of course, at the end, they write about it. And that is a symbol that we are talking of. The ELPSS is a symbol, the writing. And these are the symbols that is holding all these things together that they've already experienced, as in the experience of it, go there and visit it, the conversations around it, the images they have drawn, and everything comes together and they have put it in words. So ELPS, and as I said, early childhood. Why it is powerful? As I said, concrete before abstract. So, and this is how the brain learns actually. You do not just give them the pen and then say, okay, write about it. So from the concrete, they move to the abstract. And it is rooted in experience. It is born from some form of meaning. And one more, the other one that I wanted to discuss is phenomena-based writing projects. So what exactly is happening in phenomena-based writing projects is that they are, it is multidisciplinary usually. So suppose we talk of some real world theme. In this case, I'm talking about the rivers. And what is happening here is that in science, they're learning as to how the rivers are flowing. In social studies, they're learning, maybe they're talking about the communities and how rivers are supporting the communities. In art, they are asked to paint those scenes. In writing, they're creating travel blogs. I remember one of my students came this time, class 12, and said we were asked to write this answer English, as a blog. So that was kind of interesting because they can relate with these things, right? So a blog about that river, a fictional story about some setting on the banks of that river, or perhaps even a persuasive letter to the government to protect that river. And they're thinking, right? They're connecting across the disciplines and they're thinking. But as I said, we of course will customize it to our own needs. And so it is nothing like a chore. Instead, it is a project. It is a project for the children, and they have a purpose behind it. So in our context, as I said, how we do this is that one composition in a month, maybe ELPA style. If we are not able to design that cross-subject phenomena-based writing, maybe in one term, maybe just two subjects, social studies and English, and it becomes a cross-subject phenomena. So we make it rooted to experience. And when we make it rooted to experience, we are talking of more real, more meaningful expressions. And I think that is where we score the brownie point, because we need to get in touch with that core within that child, right? Make him more complete in today's world, which is so very superficial. I'm sure everybody will agree there. When I talk about call to action, I talk of shifts. As I said, that we are talking of mindset shift, right? So 4 powerful shifts, I would say, that let us make it a daily ritual. There are the Karnataka government has, I believe, right, come up with it, wherein they are talking of daily 1 hour writing ritual. And this is especially after class 10 results where now that, as expected. So they went for a daily ritual thing, not a weekly task. And when I say daily ritual, not even 1 hour, just 5 minutes. It can be something like an exit activity, exit activity. After the class, you just tell them, okay, everybody gives me a chit with 2 to 3 lines of what you have understood in today's whatever class, science, social, whatever it is, right? So 2 to 3 lines of expression, hand it over, and then, right? So exit activity. And beyond formats, into feelings. We have to ask the child to write about the dilemmas that he faces, the gratitude, feeling of gratitude, because the moment he thinks about it, he is getting connected to that feeling. And that connection is what we're looking for. Then thinking before writing, giving them some sort of a structure, right? We need to help them out instead of just telling them write a story. Why not give them a prompt? Why not give them a sentence stem or a thinking routine like we talked of in Project Zero? Right? We tell them that see, think, and wonder. And we need to think of writing as being the inner compass of these children. Everything need not be thought in terms of evaluation, right? Some certain things are only for the soul. We need to keep it only for the soul. I'll just end with these noteworthy programs and innovations that have already been taking place in very recent, and it's heartening to see the children respond to these kind of initiatives, which makes me believe that it is just one step that the educators, teachers, schools, and the entire education system needs to take, and these children are going to respond, I think, wholeheartedly. So this is Sunbeam School, Balia, that would be in Uttar Pradesh. This is a school in Uttar Pradesh. They have come up with this Braille Books initiative. And what exactly they have done, they have published 136 books in just 1 year. Just imagine the interest that these children have shown to this initiative. There are other initiatives also, some entrepreneurial initiatives also they have taken, and they have got some patents also for that. But we are talking exclusively in writing. And when you say 136 books in 1 year, I think these children have really, really taken it up so very well and so very seriously. So we need to just give them a direction, I believe. CBSE, of course, has this what we know as the Budding Authors Program. And what they do here is that they have this portal where the students are expected to, during summer vacations especially, they're supposed to go for some creative writing and whatever, and they are supposed to put it in this portal. And whichever are the ones which are shortlisted, the entries which are shortlisted, they are given some mentorship. So the renowned authors of the country, they are the ones who actually give this mentorship, and the students are really doing well. So it is an outlet of for their expression and to hone their skills as well. And Young Writers Program is also something that I found very interesting. It has been launched very recently, I think in 2024 or so. Almost 20 schools are already in its folds. And what they're doing here again is that they're giving roles to these students. These students are acting like writers, like journalists, like designers and storytellers, and very high quality magazines they're designing, and with actual readership. So when you give them a purpose, the end product has a kind of a readership, and they have a sort of a purpose, right? It is you can almost treat it like an internship, right? They're learning the methods, right? They're discussing, and they're just getting better with time. So these kind of initiatives help our children, and our children do respond wonderfully, if I may say so. And at the very end, I would want all our educators and all our teachers to reflect on two things, not much. That do we really give the freedom to our children to write without fear? Are we judging them too much? And if not, can we do it? Can we give them that freedom and not judge them? Can we just give them a very safe environment? Because I believe schools are the last remaining safe places to teach our children how to write. They have to get connected to their inner core, as I said. And again, are you fixating too much on grammar and not their growth? Are you really assessing only their grammar, or are you really understanding how they are growing? Because once they express their thoughts, you get that, right? And not just the career that we want to reflect on. So having said that, yes, it is true that NEP is asking us to raise these thinkers, these feelers, these doers, and these dreamers. And I, for one, am a firm believer that writing is definitely one tool that will help build all four of these thinkers, feelers, doers, and dreamers. So let us not just think of feeding their mind. Let us also teach the students to be fearless, to be creative, and to hold their values dear. And I think that is the way that very strong futures can be built. So yes, with that, I sum up, and I would definitely love it if there are questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Sangeeta. Wonderful session, ma'am. And I didn't know that the CBSE, about the CBSE Budding Writers Program and the work the Sunbeam School is doing. It's like really good to know. Great information. So we have, I think, one Mr. Coach Jessamine, I think he's from your end. Sir, can you unmute yourself if you have any questions, like you can ask Ms. Sangeeta, please? Thank you.
Good morning, Jessamine, sir.
Can you hear us, sir? Do you have any questions to ask? Okay. So, ma'am, I have received a couple of questions from the other speakers. It's discussing about the challenges, right? So, what strategies can be used to support children with learning disabilities or difficulties in writing?
See, I think somewhere when we talked of the thinking routines, right? We talked of that, giving them a structure firstly. And another is the multi-sensory prompt, because what I want to understand is that where exactly is the child facing a problem? Because writing, vocabulary development, then sentence structure, presentation, these are very general problems. I mean, during COVID, uh, there was this research which said that almost 92% decline, they showed decline in, reading and writing abilities. So these things are very general, but what exactly is the problem? If it is very, what can I say, basic, language related, foundation related, then we have to stress on the grammar and the vocabulary, and that can be done parallelly. But if it is learning disability in terms of, not being able to do it on your own, then those prompts, those thinking routines can help a lot. Multisensory prompts, as we talked about, can help a lot, because some or the other way is going to find an echo. It's going to resonate with the learner, right? If it's kinesthetic, if you do not want, if the child is not able to write it at one go, show the story, show the picture maybe, right? And they can then relate with it and then go ahead, and then hand holding, patience, right? As educators and teachers, we have to understand that not everybody is going to be of the same level. So a little bit of patience from our side. And since it is something, it is a core skill after all, we have to be mentally ready to give it that time. I think then we should be able to handle this properly.
Yes, I think the patience part of your answer in this question has answered the second question also, but I would like to put it because we have received it. How can the pressure to meet writing standards or benchmarks impact children's creativity and love for writing?
Oh, yes, greatly, in fact. I mean, if we are giving, that's what we have said throughout.
Right.
We do not want to, we do not want to judge them for anything. We do not want to evaluate right from the word go. We want to give them a safe space first. There is Carol Dweck. She talks of growth mindset in writing. And she says that the yet language, okay, there is a yet language. What is exactly this yet language? We find that our children are struggling with writing. Okay, they are not able to sort of meet the parameters that we say, the rubrics that we have, right? The structure and the presentation and the flow and the language and everything, they're not able to meet it. So we sit with them, we point it out, and then we use the yet language. I can see that you're working quite hard, and however, you have not been able to do things as expected or as you would have wanted. Yet, there is room for improvement, and these are the things that we are going to do. So, let us not really restrict them with those rubrics, as you have said, right? With those parameters. Let us just make it very, very non-judgmental, and at the same time help them develop it, right? We are not talking of master authors and for each and every child, but even some form of development. And in the process, maybe I myself have seen, if you can develop that love for writing and not make it like a academic rigor, but more of an emotional rigor, then they relate with it very soon. They will be able to relate it. Just the perspective from which you are handling it. Is it just from the evaluative part and the parameter part, or is it more from an expression and appreciation? What is wrong about it? I mean, if they have made an improvement, they might not have moved till A plus, but even from D, if they have moved to C, why not appreciate? That will work like magic, I feel. So yes, we can do that. And yes, patience, as you said, that is
Yes,
what happens.
yes. So the young minds, good ideas and creative ideas and everything, the freedom of expression, their thoughts. So what are some ways to balance the need for writing skills with the need for creative freedom in children's writing?
Yes, see, some of it can be evaluative, of course. See, when we are talking of essays, we are talking of journaling is again non-evaluative. But if you're talking of essays and more like within the disciplines, right? You're talking of asking them to say, for instance, the water cycle. Instead of asking them to write about the water cycle, tell them that imagine you are a raindrop and now you have to describe your journey, right? So everything did not be evaluative, no doubt about it. But there again, as educators, I think we can draw a balance as to which are the things where we are going to do the grading so that they develop the structure as well. Structure is going to impact the way they think, right? Deep thinking and meaningful writing will come from structure. So we cannot let loose of that. We cannot just say, okay, give them a safe space and just make it non-evaluative. So that balance has to be there. So these essays and argumentative writing that they are doing, that needs to be graded. We can do that. But again, parallelly, we can give them that safe spot, as I said. And as I said, very, very reflective, very, very short writing activities. Did not be a 1 hour practice also. It can be just 5 or 10 minutes, as we talked about it, like the exit activity that we were talking about. So yeah, we have to draw balance somewhere.
Right. So home is the first school, right, ma'am? So for the young minds to express their ideas and everything. So what happens is in parenting, like with your own child, like we try to be perfect or try to teach them the perfect manner. This is good, this is bad. Only, we usually hear the word. So how can parents provide constructive feedback on children's writing without discouraging them?
Constructive feedback first. I have noticed one thing, that with I don't know, it is because of the invasion of gadgets, I think, that children have actually lost interest in writing, because it requires, as I said, stillness. You have to sit with your thoughts, right, and then put it down on paper. And because of this continuous scrolling, the minds have started losing their focus. So that is something which is happening. The children are just not ready to write these days. It's a quite a task to make them sit and write. And even then, when they are doing it, they're in such a hurry. And this is
True.
something that, right, that needs a lot of. So parents firstly have to, it has to be a coordinated effort, and there has to be a lot of appreciation. There has to be a lot of encouragement. I think reward helps. I try it at times, if you can sit and write a poem, and if you make an effort. I'm not even asking for a very good poem or something, excellent poem, right, with the rhymes and verse and stuff. If you can just write one poem, sit for half an hour here, make an effort, some form of reward for it, and it acts like an encouragement. Okay, you start reading books with your children. Oh my god, we really need to get back to those basics, because we are running away from it, and that too in the opposite direction. So sit with the child, read a book. It is going to mobilize those thinking cells in the brain, and gradually that interest will develop. So some form of engagement with the child, a reward, appreciation, encouragement, everything works. Everything and anything works. Okay. So a guidance is required. A guidance is required, and too much of judgment is definitely not something that I would talk about, right? It is not at all something that is going to help in any way. So we can just keep that out of the entire parameter of things and just think of encouraging and guiding the children. Yes.
Right, ma'am. So as we discussed that this is the digital age, digital era, and we cannot take away that thing from a child, no matter how a parent tries. So how can technology be used to support writing instructions?
Yes, again, technology is helping. Say, for instance, I'll just talk about my creative writing classes. When I do these workshops in schools and stuff, I use all these prompts, I use pictures, I use a lot of videos, right? And there are so many apps also wherein the children can be asked to present their writing. Say, for instance, if I ask them to make as I was just talking about the child of class 12, that I asked them to write a blog maybe, and actually make that blog on screen and then submit it for a peer review. We have a group, we have a WhatsApp group. So they make a video out of it and then they submit it in the group. And it sort of tells us, because, when the person is writing, it is developing the linguistic ability as well. And the communication ability also gets developed in the process. So what we are seeing here is that we can actually use technology to sort of, what can I say, encourage the child, and they are going to love these things, because this is the time of influencers and blogs, and right, everything that is going on around, so they can relate with it. That is one way. Then again, if we can ask them, one negative about it also I need to mention, because in my creative writing workshops, I have seen that if I give them a task to be done at home, there's a lot of ChatGPT use, because ChatGPT is able to. We have talked about it in the presentation that AI is taking over everything, and they can even write stories and poems and stuff. But what we need to understand, they cannot put in that feeling. They cannot think and talk and write like the child who has lost the pet, or the beginning of the friendship with the pet. Those feelings will only come from the child who has actually felt it. So, but ChatGPT also can be used, because we can ask them to find some form of a structure of, if they have a thought, to put that thought and to find a structure as to how they can go about with the flow and stuff. So yes, they can use technology, and the entire process can be made more structured. But we cannot, I don't think we should encourage excessive use at the same time, because creativity has to come from within. It cannot really, we cannot really depend too much on what is outside. That is, I feel, that is what my take would be.
True, ma'am. So that's all for the question answer session, ma'am. School Journal of Education and schoolreformer.com. Thank you for the talk and for patiently answering all the questions. We thank Mr. Chesme also for participating in the event, ma'am. Before I end the session, anything else you want to mention, Miss Sangeeta?
Yeah, nothing much. I'm pretty much, the long and short of it has been said. But yes, see, when we are thinking of the pen, right, we are mostly thinking of it as just a tool to write. But today, I hope I have been able to convey the basic idea that when we give the pen to the child, we are giving the power to the child to think, right? We are giving the child some sort of courage to reflect and to ponder about things, and also the possibility to transform his or her life. So that way, the pen is, very powerful. And that is exactly what we talked about today: pen, power, and possibility. So every educator could just absorb the thought and then go about the entire process of nurturing our children to get in tune, as I say, with their innermost feelings and thoughts. So yes, that would be what I would say.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That's all. Have a great day, and I'll end the session now.
Thank you so much.